Welcome to another Telltale Books video. I'm Greg, and I'm continuing my J.G. Ballard series. I'm doing a lot of these. I'm going to do a lot of these because I want to cover everything that he wrote before the Drowned World so that Emily and I can read Drowned World in December. Coming up, I'm shooting on November, was this the 23rd, 24th, something like that? 23rd. That means I have a number of stories by Ballard that I still need to cover. This one that I'm talking about in this video is The Cage of Sand. I still have the watchtowers, the man on the 99th floor, and the singing statues before I can do the Drowned World in order to keep things in publication order. I know a lot of times I go out of publication order on these videos, but this time I'm really working hard to stick to it. So this video is about The Cage of Sand, which is Ballard's 29th published work. It was published in the June 1962 issue of New Worlds, which is overall number 119. I do not have a copy of New Worlds. I only have my Bible, the complete short stories of J.G. Ballard. It's in here. It is in Memories of the Space Age. I've got that noted down here. It's the Arkham House collection that Ballard did in the 1980s. A man named Bridgman and a woman and another man are all living in an abandoned hotel near the remains of Cape Canaveral. This is taking place in the future. It's meant to be not too far in the future. In a future where Cape Canaveral got shut down. And the reason it gets shut down, my mind's getting fuzzy on why they did this, but they brought sand from Mars. Okay, so mankind has established space travel and is going out there a lot to the degree where they had spaceships capable of going to Mars and getting a whole bunch of sand and bringing it back to Earth, probably a number of shipments. And they were using this on Earth until I think they were putting this in places where they wanted to keep the ocean from encroaching on it and covering it over. They were filling things with sand from Mars. And so most of South Florida is filled up with Martian sand. But there happens to be a microorganism in the sand, which gets loose and starts causing problems. What they have to do to contain it, and you're probably hearing some echoes of Jeff Vandermeer here, which I'm wondering if that's not the case, if possibly Vandermeer was influenced a lot by Ballard. This being in Florida, this being an eco catastrophe, the area is cordoned off. It's actually being fenced off. They don't want people in this area because the people that stay in the area get this organism. And it's an organism that it'll live inside them and eventually will kill them, but it's going to take a long time. But they want to quarantine these areas, so they have to shut down Cape Canaveral because Cape Canaveral is completely surrounded by all this Martian sand. But these three people, one of them is a guy that kind of washed out as an astronaut. He was supposed to go and he was in a ship ready to go, but he lost it. And so they had to pull him out and scrap the mission, which cost millions of dollars. And so he never got a chance to go into space again. So he's there because he wishes that wouldn't have happened. He wishes he still had a chance. And the woman that's there had a husband who did go up into space. There are a number of people that got trapped up in space capsules. There are 7 space capsules that orbit the Earth, all fairly close together. And the orbit takes them over Cape Canaveral, and she stays there because every night she can go outside and see her husband's capsule in the sky. So she doesn't want to leave. And Bridgman, I can't remember why he hangs around. But he doesn't want to leave there either. But the authorities come in and try to force them out, try to catch them, try to forcibly take them out, and give them the warning that if they refuse the offer to leave, that they are going to be fenced in and not allowed to ever leave because they would infect the rest of the world. So they will have to live the rest of their lives trapped at Cape Canaveral. That's probably more of the story than I really should have given away, but I think it's important to hear that because it doesn't really spoil it when you know Ballard. The writing is so incredible. You have to read this story. It is amazing. Let me see if I can find a passage that I like. And the story, by the way, is it's um it's a novelette length. So it's not quite a short story. But just the first paragraph here, I hope there's no problems with me reading this first paragraph because you really got to hear this. At sunset, when the vermilion glow reflected from the dunes along the horizon fitfully illuminated the white faces of the abandoned hotels, Bridgman stepped onto his balcony and looked out over the long stretches of cooling sand as the tides of purple shadow seeped across them, slowly extending their slender fingers through the shallow saddles and depressions. The shadows massed together like gigantic combs, a few phosphorescing spurs of obsidian isolated for a moment between the tines, and then finally coalesced and flooded in a solid wave across the half-submerged hotels. Behind the silent facades, in the tilting sand-filled streets which had once glittered with cocktail bars and restaurants, it was already night. Halos of moonlight beaded the lamp standards with silver dew and draped the shuttered windows and slipping cornices like a frost of frozen gas. It's just awesome. I love that. I love the way Ballard writes. I love the description there. I love the feel he gives to his writing, the mystery and wonder of his descriptions of things. Um, the only This is a very science fictional story. I mean, we still use Cape Canaveral, and we haven't brought sand back from Mars yet. But this sort of thing could still happen to us. This story is not entirely impossible. It's not entirely outdated by anything. It's just unlikely. This one has to have a top tail. I have to recommend this. Any of you out there that love literature, that love reading, that love fiction stories, you should read this story, The Cage of Sand. Track it down, find it. Like I say, complete short stories, Memories of the Space Age, New Worlds number 119, which I know is online as a PDF. Track it down and read this story. It's probably in some other books. I'm not sure. Don't have notes in front of me of where else it appeared. This is a really, really great story. This should have been an award winner. To the best of my knowledge, it wasn't a finalist even for Hugo or Nebula or anything. But this is a truly great story. This story is why I read Ballard. It There's things about this that remind me of Myths of the Near Future, which was the first story I ever read by J.G. Ballard, and which set me on the path to loving all of his work. It has that Myths of the Near Future has that same deserted Cape Canaveral in the story, or Cape Kennedy. In the 60s, it was still Cape Canaveral in 1962. Have you read The Cage of Sand? If so, what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I have some details off here? Leave those comments in the comments section of the video. Keep it on topic to the story and J.G. Ballard. I recently had somebody argue history because it was either me or Emily made an offhand comment about Nazis burning Bibles. We didn't get the facts 100% correct, but the essential point that we were trying to get to is the Nazis burned Bibles, not, we weren't trying to give an accurate history lesson about the Nazis. We were talking about Robert Heinlein. So, those comments are off topic and have nothing to do with the story. Keep your comments about the story, about the author. Okay. About, well, you can mention history that may have influenced the author. I mean, in 1962, where did J.G. Ballard get the idea that Cape Canaveral was going to be deserted ever? Where did he get the idea in 1962 that space flight would become privatized, which it mostly is becoming privatized, so he's not wrong. But in 1962, what was there in the world that would have made him think that? I don't know. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe Ballard came from the future. Wouldn't entirely shock me. But it's a great story. It's a wonderful story to read. And so I hope you'll read that. And I hope you'll like this video, subscribe to our channel, leave appropriate comments. Really, really do want appropriate comments. And I hope you'll come back in a very short time when I will talk about The Watchtowers, which was published the same month. Not in the same magazine, surely. No, it was published over in Science Fantasy, but published in the same month. So come on back for that and all the other videos that I do here at Telltale Books.